Pro-life woman of Reddit, why? This thread is exactly why I will never waste time writing about my views on the subject or debating it on this website. It will go nowhere. Reddit has zero capacity for respectfully debating political topics. This thread has become a giant honeypot to attract pro-life people and then immediately hammer them with downvotes as soon as they stick their head out. Have you noticed how Reddit is willing to debate both sides of almost any issue? BLM, taxes, healthcare, gun control. Except for abortion? Have you ever wondered why abortion is purest circle jerk on this website? It's because pro-choice fits perfectly with every Reddit demographic. You have the liberal feminist college women who believe in autonomy at any cost. You have the young college-aged men who are terrified of being on the hook for child support, so they are relieved by the prospect of killing the fetus before they have to be responsible for it. You have the child-free bloc that dominates this website and hate all forms of children, unborn or not. They all come together to create this airtight chokehold, and it's impossible to get a word in edgewise. Edit. I guess to actually answer Op's question, yes, I'm politically pro-life, with exceptions for the mother's health like an ectopic pregnancy, or if the fetus is stillborn anyway. The reason is that I believe the unborn baby is a human being and therefore actively harming it should be treated the same as harming a human being outside of the womb. Ultrasound has detected fetuses playing with their umbilical cord, and they have been noted to cry in the womb when they are startled. Good luck convincing me that a clump of cells can do that. Oh, and to make your neckbeard head spin even more, I'm not Christian but actually an atheist-leaning agnostic. Zoinks! My family member, who is my elder, is deeply Catholic and vehemently pro-life. She is a mother of two. She recently confessed to me that she had 2 abortions after her second child was born. She was married, financially stable, and already a mother, but her husband worried they couldn't afford another child. 6 months later, she had her second abortion. Same circumstances. They were saved from further abortions by a hysterectomy 6 months after that. She says she wishes she hadn't had to do it but is glad that she could give a better life to her 2 boys and grieves it but doesn't regret it. She is extremely active in pro-life circles. She is extremely active in the church. She is a local bigwig in the GOP. I don't know why she wishes to deny other women the rights that she had, and exercised, when she was of childbearing age. I suspect there are many secret abortions hidden amongst the pro-life set. For most of my life I considered myself to be pro-life and I couldn't understand why on earth anyone could consider being pro-choice. I constantly equated being pro-choice to being pro-abortion and knew I never wanted to consider that option for myself or anyone. But when I turned 17 everything changed. Less than a week after my 17th birthday I was raped by an ex-boyfriend and I was pregnant, living with 2 abusive parents, and the fact that I was being stalked by my ex-boyfriend and was being threatened by him. I was terrified. I was a baby having a baby and I knew both of our lives were in danger. I knew that something was going to happen and that it was up to me. In my head I briefly thought of abortion as an option to spare my child from being abused like I was. But then I realized that I would never be able to live with myself no matter what happened if I did that. So I made the choice to keep the child. I was going to go through the pregnancy and give her or him up for adoption so they could have a better life. Unfortunately I didn't get to keep the child because due to no prenatal care and an unknown medical condition I miscarried and almost died in my bathroom at 10 weeks. But after all the heartache and trauma of it happening I realized that it was still a choice and I made mine. When you're a parent or a human being, you have to make the best decisions for you and all around you, and I did that. Regardless of my miscarriage, it was still in my mind the right thing to do. I will stand by my decision, but knowing how hard and heartbreaking that experience was, I will never judge another person going through that. And that is why I think other pro-life advocates don't understand why having a choice is so important. They've never been in a situation where they've never needed choices, and at the end of the day they never will understand unless they have. Pro-choice does not have to mean pro-abortion. It simply means to offer help in any way possible to people in terrible situations. And hopefully something good will come out of this and there will come a time where no one has to make the terrible choice again. I'm a pro-life Christian woman, I don't think anyone should get an abortion. But the amount of energy pro-life organizations pour into vilifying abortion seems like a waste of time and effort to me. If we really want to help women in difficult situations, we would focus on providing the resources and support needed for women to feel they can keep their babies. Stop trying to convert people and just offer a helping hand where it is needed most. These women need medical coverage, rent assistance, parenting classes, childcare, and so much more. Not just platitudes that every life is sacred and cast off baby clothes. Real sex education for kids should be provided as well, not that abstinence BS. And don't just focus on the woman. The guys involved need to step up. Stop touting signs with broken baby parts and actually be there for the mother in her most vulnerable hour, without judgment. Edit. Guys, thank you so much for the kind words from people on both sides of the issue. I'll try to reply to as many of you as I can, but there are a lot of you, and I'm trying to be thoughtful and clear with my responses and answer questions to the best of my ability. Plus I have work tomorrow and have to go to bed soon, so it will take some time. To those who found issue with what I've said here, thank you for posting your thoughts. It really gives me things to consider. Hearing your opposing viewpoints, a few of which never came to mind before. I might do another edit to address some points people brought up, we'll see. And especially thank you to the women who have shared their abortion experiences with me. I know that can be a difficult thing to talk about, and I hear what you have had to say, and I see you, and I care, whether we agree at the end or not. You are all strong and fierce, and I wish you the best in life. A lot of abortions can definitely be prevented with the appropriate social support, but some still won't be. Aside from the rape and incest ones, there are ones like mine. I got an abortion simply because I didn't want to have a kid. The popular stereotype is a slutty younger girl who sleeps around, but I had an abortion at 25 because my husband and I decided it wasn't a good time for a kid. Our birth control failed. Since then I have one child and am currently pregnant with the second. After the maternal quad screen I had done at 16 weeks, there was a chance I would get another abortion, this time a second trimester one. Luckily the birth defect possibility that turned up in the blood screen was ruled out by ultrasound, but if my baby would have had that specific defect, I absolutely would have aborted. Assuming my baby would have made it to term, it would have only known a very short and sufferable time outside of my body, and that is not the world I wanted it to know. Late-term abortions are always wanted babies. The law does not discriminate on why an abortion is being procured. To ban abortion would force mothers to carry dead or dying babies who were very much wanted and do untold psychological damage to the mother. I agree with most of these points. I definitely think we need to focus on men and women with regard to education, but I still think abortion should be accessible. I feel we can drastically reduce the overall number by providing comprehensive sexual education, as well as birth control and contraception, and we need to work as a society to reduce the stigma of providing those things. We need to find ways to help those in ways you mentioned so that they have something other than panic with regard to having a baby. People need to step up their game when it comes to help, instead of shaming parents that don't want to have a child at that moment, giving themselves that puffed chest feeling of moral superiority. But it needs to remain accessible. If a mother cannot or does not want to carry and give birth, it has to be her choice, since she's the one that wants to go through it, and we can't make her not doing just because other people don't like it. We can offer, not require, information and assistance, but if she says no, it has to mean number. Making abortion illegal will not eliminate it, only make it more dangerous. The thing is, not everyone wants to have children, and birth control can fail. Adoption isn't the most ideal option either. Sweden has a lot of what you mentioned. There is also no issue in getting birth control, yet abortion is still legal because everyone has their own circumstances. I'm also Christian, and there is no way I'm going to have children. While I'm more than willing to take precautions, if I ended up pregnant, I would go through an abortion, because it would be more selfish of me to go through with the pregnancy. Pregnancy and childbirth is dangerous. It is still the #1 killer of women in the world. Even if it doesn't kill you, you can get injured for life. In developed countries with solid health care, women still die in childbirth, and it should be any woman's choice if they want to take that risk or not. What makes somebody human though? I used to think of fetuses as being babies when I was younger, but the more I thought of it, the more I came to believe they are not really the same thing. I think it's our consciousness that separates us from other animals and makes us human, and fetuses don't really have the same consciousness as newborns. At some point they don't even have brains, so it feels cruel to me now to prioritize them over living, conscious women. Hence why no headway comes of these discussions. One side tries to use their own views and beliefs to vilify the other despite completely different life experiences and their own logic not being the same as the others. I'm personally pro-choice, but I think some things in the pro-life stance do have merit, namely those who would rather see financial and emotional support for women who can't afford to keep children instead of abortions, or better sexual education to prevent these irresponsible births in the first place. I think we need to define what pro-life means, exactly. There's a big difference between holding the personal opinion that a life is important, and thinking all abortions should be illegal for everyone everywhere at every time. Many women are pro-life, but recognize situations in which abortions are appropriate, or are anti-abortion as a matter of personal morality, but don't believe it is the role of government to legislate that personal morality onto everyone. There's room for nuance here. If you personally disapprove of abortions but recognize situations in which abortions are appropriate, or are anti-abortion as a matter of personal morality, but don't believe it is the role of government to legislate that personal morality onto everyone, you are pro-choice. Pro-choice/pro-life is about your opinion on whether abortion should be legal, not whether you personally like abortions. Exactly. I don't think I could have an abortion, but I've never been in a position to consider it. When I got pregnant at 17, the father and I decided to get married. I have 2 wonderful sons, but am no longer with their dad. Would I go back and change that? Regardless of the dumpster fire I made of my life after the divorce, the world is a better place with those 2 men in it. Do I think I should be able to tell anyone else what to do when faced with the similar, or God forbid, worse situation? Nope. Like you/Rejoy247 said earlier, this is me, pro-life, Christian. I've had 5 kids, would love another, husband says no, and can't even really think about abortion in any real way, as it is horrific to think about those babies. But standing behind rhetoric and not even considering the rare cases where the baby literally isn't viable, or won't even make it to term, or where the mother has a literal life-threatening situation. That's the first issue. Like, seriously? This is what the right is again and again. They want all or nothing. They fail to even provide concessions and logic for other possibilities. Add to that this would be giving the government one more piece of control over the individual. As much as I believe that is a little person in there, is ultra scary, and should be avoided at all costs. The only way to cut down abortion rates is education. Start improving countrywide education and easier access to contraceptives. Make education more accessible. The amount of money that goes into education in this country is laughable. And sure, abstinence is the only 100% way to avoid pregnancy, but can you even fathom the fact that kids might just do it anyway? The fact that religion can enter into education is abhorrent. And I am a Christian. I've tried using the what if the religion they were using to make decisions was Islam, atheism, argument with those who still want prayer in schools, etc., but I always get the look like that would never happen. I do remember being young and thinking I may be pregnant, before I was married, and the absolute panic I felt, the sinking feeling, the horror. It isn't my right to take that option away from anyone, as much as I hate it. If you really care about the babies, help with education, help poor mothers who can't afford food instead of telling them they are lazy or stealing if they get welfare, or food stamps, or WIC, two of which I have depended on when our financial stability, once not a question, disappeared seemingly overnight and didn't come back for 6 long years. I didn't judge people before then, and I sure as hell won't now, but the amount of vitriol I see and hear towards these programs, not to mention the misinformation. Sorry, sidetracked. But yeah, I very much consider myself pro-life, but I also don't believe in taking away the choice, instead of trying to fix the issue so far down the line. Why can't we work on solving the underlying causes? Like, this is common sense. And, since my statements just made me sound pro-choice, to add more to my inconsistencies, I also am not against the death penalty. I think it should be rare, and only used with incontrovertible evidence. I actually hate the idea of it, but to make it personal, if someone did something terrible to my children or a loved one, or actually children in general, why are we using tax dollars to keep them alive? But I also am against most drug incarcerations. I don't think there should be many absolutes in just about anything, and I also think the less control the government has over us individually, the better. Very much consider myself pro-life, but I also don't believe in taking away the choice. That's because you're pro-choice, want education, contraception, government support, non-judgmental care, and safe, legal abortions. You're pro-choice, want abortions to be rare, also pro-choice. I'm genuinely puzzled. You people who identify as pro-life but hasten to explain you don't actually think banning abortion is a good idea. What do you think pro-choice means? That we all go out and get abortions together cause we're feeling cute? That we dream and save and put on a nice outfit for our first abortion? You don't want an abortion and think it's not right? Don't have one. That's where the word choice comes into play. I personally think, scientifically, life starts at conception. People argue when life starts ... 8 weeks after conception, 12 weeks, when the heart beats, brain activity, etc. But that then becomes subjective, right? They decide where along that line it becomes a viable life. To me, science would be black and white on this issue. Take faith and political arguments out, and say the only obvious answer when it's conceived and not my notions of when I view it as a baby. If uninterrupted, the life starts at fertilization. The abortion argument then becomes who can choose if that life can be the woman's choice to end or is the life righted life once it's conceived. Lots of faith-based people, agree or disagree, think God planned that child in their mother's womb and that it should have protections. They want to be the baby's voice since the baby has no defense against their mother's choice to end their life. To them it's not about government telling a woman what to do with their body but becomes a life and death fight for the rights of the unborn child. I personally had an abortion as a young 23 years old woman. I'm 39 and never had a biological child of my own but have raised 2 girls since they were babies. I would never have another abortion. I feel I was wrong. I regret that decision and wish I had not. Can I tell another woman what to do and should it be illegal? My heart wants to say that baby should have the right to live but my head says that's not my decision to make. I honestly don't know. I'm personally now pro-life for myself but tentatively pro-choice for women. It does make my heart hurt either way. Not an easy answer. It seems to me, and I could be wrong, that a large part of the argument is a legal one regarding when the fetus has rights as a citizen of the U.S. If we're ruling it as a protected citizen at conception and women can be charged with murder for aborting, what happens legally during things like miscarriages? Do we start charging women who miscarried after doing something risky or having an unhealthy lifestyle with manslaughter? Do we implement bounties for turning in women who are seen smoking or drinking while pregnant? Where do the legal rights of the clump of cells start and the legal rights of the woman end? Seems like a very slippery slope. I don't understand how in 2021 we don't have birth control for men that has a better efficacy rate than condoms. There's the snip but that's final, cost prohibitive, and invasive. I have a hard time being pro-life when the responsibility for pregnancy lies almost solely with the female because of this imbalance. Worried about abortion? Where is the call for more access and innovative improvements to male contraception? They can keep their dicks up for weeks but can't manage to avoid knocking up their partner. I would be more accepting of the pro-life philosophy if I felt like anyone cared about this. Male physician weighing in on male contraception. Got opinions on abortion, but the thread was pretty clear about the perspective it's seeking. Vasectomies, while not cheap by any stretch of the imagination, are not that invasive. They are definitely cheaper than raising a child. They're also way less invasive than female surgical contraception. There's a reason we do vasectomies in the clinic under local anesthetic but do tubals, salpingectomies in the OR. I'd argue they're also less invasive than surgical abortion. And yes, after years of my better half doing hormonal contraception, I'm now on the docket to put my money where my mouth is, like my balls, and get snipped. Because it is biologically really hard. Women have an inbuilt system to stop ovulation that is triggered naturally when pregnant. So we just looked at the hormones your body releases during pregnancy, tested them and found the specific ones that trigger the change. Men not only lack such a system but their reproductive system is on a sort of negative feedback loop. If you try to remove the hormone that triggers sperm production, the body notices and starts producing even more. The short answer is that all 3 trial male birth control meds, that I remember, caused total impotence in over 40% of the test subjects and major or total sex drive loss. Common side effects were moderate depression and loss of energy. A very small number of participants and one also suffered either permanent impotence or rapid erection loss. The reason for this is that men require testosterone continually for sex drive, sperm production, mood stability and energy level, and, unfortunately, the only known way to diminish sperm count temporarily is to reduce testosterone level. Other options trialing soon include a very spermicidal cream that can be used as a lube and some drugs that don't target testosterone uptake, production. Pro-choice is not just about where life begins, but also includes opinions on prioritizing the fully grown human being. A woman being helpless to her body, knowing that making it illegal will not stop abortions, but instead simply force women to go about it unsafely. Man gaining more control over women, gets her pregnant. She can't do anything about it. Avoiding going back to puritanical views of a woman needing to be chaste to be valuable. Avoiding restructuring laws that hope to push that mentality. And questions never come up of, if a woman is considered pregnant by conception, a guy hits her in the stomach and she miscarries, should he go to jail for first-degree murder? If not, it's just war on women again. Pro-choice people just believe that there isn't any life yet. Thank you for sharing your perspective. I just wanted to clarify that there are people who believe a fetus constitutes a human life, but they do not think a woman should be forced to give her body over for its survival. This could be because of bodily autonomy, and/or prioritizing a sentient person's needs over a fetus's. I heard an interesting paradox that went something like this. Imagine you are standing outside a burning building. You only have time to run in and rescue either a container of 100 fertilized zygotes, or one infant baby. Which would you rescue? If one really believed all human life is equal, they should have no difficulty choosing to rescue the zygotes over the single child. But my guess is that deep down, we really don't view a zygote life as equal to a baby's, not even 100 of them. Yeah, I guess there was a whole other perspective to pro-choice that I wasn't really aware of. I feel like that's a whole other can of worms for me regarding morality, etc. I'm glad though I know about how some pro-choice people feel, even if I heavily disagree with it. Someone else though gave the same problem regarding saving zygotes, embryos over a child, and I felt, and answered, that it's like the problem in the Sophie's Choice film that you would save the one that would be more likely to survive, in this case the babies. However, if we knew 100% that the embryos would be viable afterwards, and live to infancy, then I feel it's the trolley problem and I'm not sure I could answer it. I define it by the standard definition of when the egg is fertilized by the sperm, and I understand that it's a fundamental issue that has multiple components to it. I just believe that we are terminating life, so I am morally against it. Personally, I feel that more men should take more responsibility to prevent pregnancies. Some guys refuse to wear condoms, for inane reasons. It shouldn't just fall on women to do birth control and what in some cases make a difficult choice if they do fall pregnant. Honest questions, no sarcasm. If you truly believe life begins at conception, do you celebrate your conception day 9 months later instead of your birthday? Do you think fathers who will not be raising the baby with the mother should pay child support backdated to conception? If my twin sister was in a horrible accident and the only way for her to live would be for me to sustain her with parts of my body, do you think the law should require me to do so? If not, how does that differ from being required to sustain an unborn life? Why not to all of the above?